Welcome everyone to this AYA, which stands for Ask You Anything. So most of you are probably familiar with an AMA. Lars does many of those. But this time we want to twist it a little bit and ask the community what they think about Concordium and about Concordium's positioning in this space. I am Robin Gonzalez Christensen, the Communications Manager, and I'm here today with my colleague Oliver.
Thank you, Robin. My name is Oliver. I'm not Holger, who was supposed to be here today. Unfortunately, he couldn't make it, so you will have to do it with me instead. I'm part of the commercial team alongside Holger, alongside Maria and Torben, who most of you know. I work as a blockchain analyst, which means I engage with all of the projects here on, or most of the projects here on Concordium, and look at the applications for grants coming in, hopefully bringing some awesome projects to our chain. So yeah, I'm super excited. The reason why I'm here is of course to seek some inspiration from you guys, because we want to hear your guys' thoughts on how commercial can look at this space and how we can evolve. So I'm super excited for it.
Definitely. I'm also super excited, and this is going to be fun. So the way it works is that we encourage you to go to Menti, so www.menti.com, and you enter the code that shows is 6690866, and you can vote on the questions.
Yeah. Make sure when you're in there to press the small like button. Then we can see that you guys are following along. And in a second, you'll have the questions on your phone and on the screen here. So get ready.
Awesome. So we will be introducing the questions in a bit.
Should we get started?
Yes.
Go ahead.
We should get started. So the first question we have is, which Concordium project use case are you the most excited about? So Oliver, like personally speaking, I am very excited about Bank of Memories.
Yeah.
Yes, I think that is such an interesting project. Not only because of the technology itself and because it's about preserving memories as NFTs and tokenized NFTs, but also because of the story that is behind it. So this is a Ukrainian project, and it went through a lot of ordeals to get where it is.
Yeah.
You know, the COVID and then the war, and it's fascinating.
Cool. I just recently got more engaged with our project called IDSure. Oh, sorry, IDSure, which is a very, very cool app in the shipping industry that will make it much safer and much more compliant, and make sure that we that all the sailors have the certificates they need, and make sure that we ensure that the ships sailing around the globe are certified. And I see that you guys brought up some projects here as well. And I think Maria is probably super excited to see Climify up here. As we all know, she's in love with everything ESG related. Also, I think you guys are bringing out some interesting ones. I think it's very interesting that you guys ride Polestar. I'm not familiar with any. I'm not sure about that, but that's very interesting to see if you guys see that coming.
Also, my SoMe ID is, very happy to see that.
Super happy to see that. It has been a fun time implementing that.
Yes, definitely. And also, of course, EnergyNet and DeFi, especially because we just rolled out our first native DEX on testnet, on Cortex.
Yeah, excited to see that go live by the end of this month. So, and also to give you guys an idea of what we want to use this for is, of course, that we will not just look at it for these 30 minutes that we are doing this today. We'll, of course, take this into account, all of the answers that you give today, and look at what could we do. Why are some of our other projects not on here for this question, and in other questions, look at what could we do differently. I would like to introduce the next question. This was actually asked by myself. Overall, all these questions come from members of our of Concordium that want to know something or need some clarification or hear your ideas. And this one came from myself because right now we're trying to be to be more outgoing and trying to seek certain industries and trying to see which kind of projects we could bring onto Concordium. So the question here is, from which industry would you like to see more use cases on Concordium? I like that healthcare is up here. I'm actually working with an interesting healthcare case that I hope to bring to Concordium that I will see. Actually, it also has a touch of AI, so that it's cool that you guys bring that up. But I really want some feedback from you guys on what should we look for and what are your guys' thoughts. Maybe we haven't thought of something and maybe you have some good ideas.
Definitely, healthcare is a very important one to get into that list, because there's, as we know, there's a lot of fragmentalization in the data when it comes to healthcare. So combining this with blockchain and nonetheless with AI, which is also there on the list, that is going to be a very useful case if we can bring those onto the platform. That would be amazing to see.
Definitely. Okay, we also see some legal AI and real estate. I hope that we can bring a cool real estate case to Concordium soon to share with you guys. I think it's a very, very interesting subject in the industry, because there's so much to do in there with digital assets and fragmentalization or democratization of investing into this industry. Super awesome to see these, and we'll definitely have a look at what you guys think later as well, to see what could we focus on. Education is super interesting as well, as I know we have a few cases that might come up at some point. That could be very interesting to share with you guys. I hope to do so too.
I also see B2C DNA medical data. That's also very interesting, because you could tokenize your own medical data and monetize it for research purposes.
Awesome. Should we move on to the next question? Thank you for all of your answers.
Yes, and just a reminder: don't forget to vote and to join on Menti. So the next question, I'm going to take that one. What blockchain project do you think Concordium should partner with?
Okay, so here it's more about what kind of projects do you see. It could be a dApp, it could be anything on one of the other chains that maybe they could work with Concordium. What is your favorite dApp on another chain is one way this question could also have been framed, or at least that's how I understand it. Here we have some interesting. Also could also of course be collaboration with other chains, but for example here with Lido, some liquid derivatives, liquid staking, that could be super interesting. GMX, I believe it's on Arbitrum. That could be super interesting to bring some of the. Those are of course some of the largest projects out there. Or
Arbitrum and Avalanche, I believe, as well.
Also on Avalanche, yes, exactly.
A lot of DeFi.
A lot of DeFi. Yeah. I hope to see some more DeFi projects on here as well.
ID on Cardano, that one is also interesting.
It has been a subject on how can we facilitate ID for other chains. I'm not sure if that's something that we're working on. That's not something I'm working on, at least. I'm more focused on projects and use cases that can use our blockchain with the commercial team. Should we move on?
Sure, let's move on to the next question.
Okay, we would like to know you guys a little bit better, and we would like to understand how you which networks you guys would like to see us bridge to. As most of you hopefully know, we had our first bridge go live quite recently, the Arabella bridge, which is an EVM bridge, but maybe it could be relevant at some point, hopefully soon as well, to bridge to some of the other cool projects, cool chains out there. And we had some suggestions here, or the one who asked this question had some suggestions. It's super interesting to see that Cardano and Solana are the most popular ones. I think Avalanche has a lot to offer as well. So maybe I'll have to look more into Cardano to get smarter on that one.
Definitely. Well, as far as I'm concerned, of course, Cardano is super interesting. Solana also is a strong player in the field, nonetheless Cosmo as well. But my favorite one is Polkadot.
It is?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because they're very connected with bringing liquidity into DeFi through real world assets.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to be the next hot thing. But that's just like my personal
Awesome.
view.
Awesome. Let's see where we'll go from here. Definitely interesting. Let's grab the next.
Yes. So what fantasy dApp, this means a dApp that doesn't exist yet, would you love to see in the future? So may I pitch in on this one?
Yeah, go ahead.
A little bit. So I'm not sure if it doesn't exist, because it's of course hard when the crypto space is so vast. But I would love to see a dApp that would allow me to tokenize my healthcare information.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. I've had this idea for some time that I would like to see at some point, where it's sort of crowdfunding for public or private investments into renewable energy. Perhaps something like solar panels, where you, right now, from what I've been reading and from my experience, if you want to invest in large projects, you would need to start out with at least $100,000 to participate in these current projects.
Mm.
And I would love to see that open, democratized, where you can invest $10 or $100 and actually become part owner of a solar panel in Poland or in Portugal. And that's one thing that could be awesome to tokenize, right? And okay, someone is interested in hockey here. I don't know if the sport itself can be tokenized, but I think, for example, tickets and the hockey, some of the experience that you have.
Loyalty programs.
Loyalty programs, yeah. In general for fan attraction, fan retention. That's you see tokens connected to football teams and other instances. So hockey could definitely happen as well. I would be happy to hear what the idea about hockey here is. A dApp for fantasy football. I know that's a huge, that's super interesting. I know there are some dApps out there that where you can compete with trading cards for different footballers. So that could definitely be super interesting to bring to Concordium.
Absolutely.
Wow, now we're getting some super
Follow
nice.
your donations to charity. Know exactly what it was used for. Sort of like with provenance tax, but keeping track of your money, making sure that it actually serves the purpose
Exactly.
that it's meant to serve.
Follow it all the way to its destination. That's something that could be super interesting to do with Concordium. Okay, now we're scrolling a bit. Yeah. Wow.
Proof of human work, guaranteed non-AI creation. That is also something that, if you've been following us on our past broadcast, Core has been speaking a lot about this.
Yeah.
With a great passion, because we were talking about Mysomi ID, and the more AI progresses, of course, the more challenges we're going to have in proving is this a human or is this a robot?
Yeah.
So that is definitely something that we will be looking into.
Cool. It's super awesome to see all these ideas. I'll just grab a last one here. I think loyalty points in daily shopping, daily lives. That one sounds super interesting. In general, I think loyalty points, attracting and retaining customers, can be used anywhere. Daily shopping, daily lives could be very interesting. I hope to see that on Concordium soon. Definitely. Let's move on before we run out of time.
To the next question, yes.
Yes, I'll take this one. What makes you excited about Concordium over other blockchains? We would like to see what is actually the point about Concordium that keeps you here, that makes you show up for an event like this, and what makes you interested, perhaps as just a loyal follower, perhaps as an investor, or we don't call it that, a token holder. What keeps you here, and what do you find exciting? What's your thought on this?
My personal thought, I think the ID layer, it's a very unique selling point. And then, of course, because it ties so well into regulations, and because of course it makes you accountable. And there's a lot of things happening in the regulatory space. So in my view, we are the most regulation-ready blockchain out there in the market.
Yeah, that is, of course, one of our main USPs. So I completely agree. That is what makes it super exciting to work here. What I'm also super excited about is the people. I think we have a great team. I think we have some of the best that I could imagine working with across the organization. I always enjoy meeting some of the colleagues that I have only met online when we finally meet up in person, because there are some great people here with Concordium. So I think that we definitely have an edge on our competitors in that sense. Cool. Should we see what you guys have been writing up here? You guys agree. You write Maria, you write Lasaya, you agree on the ID layer, and also, yeah, in general compliance and security. I really like that.
Mass adoption as well. I mean, mass adoption, of course, is related with regulations and having a clear play field.
Definitely, and not tolerating bad actors. Accountability, definitely. Let's wrap up with that. Thanks for those questions, and let's move on to the next, or those answers.
So I will take this one. Which Concordium wallet format do you use?
Yeah.
So I personally am more familiar with the browser wallet, because I did it recently to get my SOMI ID. I got verified on my SOMI ID, and you need to get your wallet to do that.
Definitely. And I think this is a question that takes up a bit of attention in terms of where should our focus be, and what kind of wallet is it that you guys see us using in the future the most. In my opinion, I agree that browser extension is of course the one with the most utility, and it will be providing a lot of utility for the user. I do, however, like using my phone. I am addicted to it, so I think I'm an iPhone user, so the iOS mobile wallet, I have also gotten quite familiar with that one when it comes to my staking, or when it comes to my trading or sending CCDs. Cool. I see that those are the two favorites as well. Happy to see that.
Which makes sense. Very representative of us two here.
Exactly. Cool. Let's grab the next one. And this one is also super interesting. What do you guys think is the next big combined AI and blockchain use case? This talks very well into the event we had quite recently. Maybe you can talk a bit about that event.
Yeah, well, we had an event talking about blockchain and AI, and for this event we had AI
2021 AI,
Michael
Monk,
from 2021 AI. Yes, thanks
the CEO.
For correcting there. And he was just explaining how the whole technology works, and he was explaining how blockchain can enhance AI, right? Because we all know that AI can do a lot of things, but it also has some, so to say, limits, right? So blockchain can assist AI and can enhance it when it comes with security, making it tamper-proof, and so on.
Definitely. I think both Kåre and Michael brought up some good points at that seminar we had a few weeks ago, and I would definitely tell anyone who hasn't seen it yet to go see it. I think you can learn a lot from it, and at least spark an interest in what AI can be used for with blockchain. So go ahead. It's on our YouTube and perhaps on our other channels as well.
Yes, it's available on YouTube.
Okay, let's see what you guys are thinking. Self-driving cars. That is super interesting. I would really love to see blockchain in this space, because there's so much data going in and out of these cars, and of course it has to be verified, this data, and it has to be safe and secure. So I think blockchain is a good way to make sure that the data comes from the right place and goes to the right place, and the overall the connection of data and AI in self-driving cars is very, very important.
Also supply chain is super important, like knowing where where a certain product actually is coming from, and certifying its authenticity,
Yeah.
and that it hasn't been tampered with. Absolutely.
One small step for man, huge on the long run. Yeah, it is gonna be one step at a time with AI, right? We need to see a lot happening in this space, and it's gonna be a tremendous. There will be tremendous developments in this space. We've already seen it with ChatGPT, but I think that's just the start of it. And
Yes.
right now,
Just the tip of the iceberg.
definitely. What else do we have up here? A P2P computer share for cloud and machine learning. Okay, I am not sure if I understand this. I would definitely be interested.
Computer share for cloud.
So you're sharing your computer power with others, perhaps for
power.
gaming, perhaps for
Oh,
mining. I hope mining is, of course, but running a node, stuff like that. Maybe that's the kind of
Yes.
stuff. I would definitely be interested in looking more into this, what this could mean for AI and blockchain. Let's move on to the next one. Super. Thank you for all of your answers here. And as I said, we'll definitely be looking into this because I'm no expert in AI, and I'll definitely have some discussions with the team around how we see this space develop.
I'll take this one. So, how many other blockchains are you following closely?
Yeah, we want to learn something about what you guys are doing in your time. How many, and if you want to write which ones you're following, I think you are also able to do so. But it's quite nice to know if you guys are just here for Concordium or you're here for the blockchain space in general, and you have an interest in more than us. I myself am trying to keep up with 2 or 3. As I said, I think Solana and Avalanche are interesting, but I also think we are the more interesting one, and it's definitely with Concordium I spend almost all of my time when interacting with the blockchain space. How about you?
Same. I also started in Concordium fairly recently, so there's a lot to catch up with. So I'm very much into Concordium. And if I have to mention other ones, then I would have to say Polkadot.
Yeah.
I'm very fascinated by Polkadot.
Awesome. And we can see that a lot of you are answering one, and that's cool. That's great. But there are also some that keep up with Cardano and keep up with a lot more blockchains. That's
Polygon. That's also.
Polygon.
It's also a strong player.
Definitely, we do interact with a lot of projects from Polygon, and I also like to keep up a bit with Near because there are a lot of interesting projects that have been starting their developments on Near, and maybe have an interest in coming to Concordium because I think we have a lot to offer to those projects as well. Should we move on? There. Interesting. Who do you think is Concordium's biggest competitor? So what do you guys see as the one we should look out for, and what do you see as the one we should perhaps copy sometimes? And sometimes it's good to keep an eye out for what are everyone else doing? Am I doing something wrong? Should I be doing something different? Right. I myself, as I said, it's mainly Avalanche and Solana. Perhaps actually. Polygon is a bit as well, and now because of the recent development that I've seen, at least Near has been super interesting for me. But that's more in sense of the projects that are on there. I like to keep up and see what kind of projects we might be able to bring here. And I think I know the answer or the question here says, who do you think is Concordium's biggest competitor? But I think it could also be what, and I think time is a big competitor. We need to. We have a window of opportunity here with Concordium, and we need to catch that right now. And I think we're putting in a great effort to do so. What do you think?
Well, from this list, I would say personally Cardano. I would also say Solana, and then I would even add another one to the list, which I think would be Aptos.
Yeah.
Yes, that's what I think.
Cool. I'm not that into Aptos yet. but I'll definitely look into it. I see that a lot of you guys are answering Near or Polygon as they grow larger here. That means they're the most popular ones, and it's good to hear that you guys have a good idea on and agree with us at least to some degree on what to look out for. And I think there's no shame in sometimes looking at the competitor and perhaps copy them, or perhaps try to see what can we do better. So let's try to do that. Let's grab the next one.
I'll take this one. What type of NFT will most likely be the next you buy? So in my case, I'm a music and an arts fan, so it will definitely be something in those lines.
Yeah.
How about you?
Yeah.
Oliver?
I'm super excited, as most of you probably know, or some of you know, we have some interesting music cases going live, hopefully soon. I don't know the exact dates or anything like that, but I would love to buy a music NFT as my next NFT. And I think real world assets also has a special place in my heart. I see it up here as well. I think there are so many opportunities. Actually, when we were discussing what the answers for this question should be, we had so many discussions on should we break down real world assets into. Yeah, there are so many classes inside real world assets, right? So there's a good reason that it's on top up here, because there are so many cool opportunities. I think one that I could come up with is the opportunity that soon you'll be able to buy tequila on Concordium through House of Rare. And that's of course a real world asset, because you can redeem your bottle or keg of tequila. And I am super excited to see that project going live. I'm not sure on the exact date, but that's a real world asset right there, where you can actually invest in it and watch the value of it grow with time, because the tequila matures.
A real world asset and a fun one too.
Exactly. Exactly. Cool. Do you have anything you want to add in on this, or should we move on?
No, I don't have anything else to add.
Cool. I think sports is a bit neglected here, because
Yeah.
especially you guys seeing fantasy football on as NFTs, that could be super awesome. We should also remember the collaboration that Space 7 did recently.
Yes.
With the Sports Museum. I think
And
there
Iker
are
Casillas.
and Iker Casillas. There are some cool NFTs to go and grab there.
Definitely.
So give it some attention, guys, perhaps. Cool. And what do you think? This is the final question for today, because we want to learn how you guys think we can handle this mainstream adoption best. And what do you guys think is the key? What do we need to focus on? I think we are already focusing on several verticals and several overarching themes and overarching keys. But what do you guys see as the main key to mainstream adoption of blockchain technology? Do you have any good ideas?
Yeah, well, I have some thoughts about that. So, I mean, it's of course a very multifactorial thing, because on the one hand, we have the problem with scalability. So we need to overcome the scalability issue. And then on the other hand, it would be like, which vertical is the one that will actually get us there, right? So some people say it's e-commerce, other people say it's going to be gaming. You know, last year we had 37 million blockchain gamers registered. So the question remains here, apart from that, like which vertical? And also we don't have clear rules in this field. So the more we get regulations coming into the field, I think the easier it will be for players to come along and actually, go full on.
That's a good point. I see that we have a lot of interesting points over here as well. Can we scroll up a bit? I don't know if we can, because we missed it a little bit.
Yeah, we missed, I don't know if that's possible.
Maybe it's not. Let's look at the ones we have.
Yes.
Efforts to increase awareness and interaction with blockchain among masses. I also saw one up there saying, explain it in human words to make sure that everyone understands what is a blockchain and how do we use it. And actually, to some degree, I do not completely agree, because how would you explain the internet to someone who doesn't understand it? You don't need to understand the internet to use it, right? In the same way, you don't need to understand all the infrastructure that is behind a blockchain project, you just need to understand the parts that you need to know in terms of feeling more safe, feeling more secure, knowing that your data is protected and that it's owned by you. And to do that, you don't have to understand all the aspects of what a blockchain is, in my opinion at least. So that's also why I see that one of the main things for mainstream adoption is exactly what is being said here, user-friendly and convenient applications where everyone sees that it's solving a problem. I think something that's one of our use cases that has not caught a lot of attention, but it's also still in development, is called Sonio ID. It's an app for your iPhone where you can own all of your travel relevant data, and they already have they're building their MVP right now. That will make it possible for you to check into hotels in, I believe it's 20 or something, different countries without having to share your passport with every new hotel you go to. They store all of your data. First of all, there's one problem here, that is data safety. You don't get to pull back your data once they're done with it. The other issue, of course, is just convenience. Whenever you go to a new hotel, this is especially for frequent travelers, but also for you and I, for everyone, to just go to a new hotel and just know they have my data. I can only share the data that I want and they need. And then once I'm done, I can pull back that access to my data. That's a use case where it's just so simple, and it doesn't feel like a big hassle, because once you've registered once, you can actually just use that again and again when traveling and going new places. So I hope to see that as a mainstream adoption channel. And I think we have a lot of those cool use cases that can spark mainstream adoption.
So basically the practicality in the ownership of your data.
Exactly. And at the same time, the personnel at these hotels save a lot of time, and everyone's happy. So let's look at one or two more from over here. Create a safe environment like Concordium wants to create, and with institutions being involved.
Institutions, that's a big one. We're definitely, as I see it, going to have to involve institutional players, or even at a government scale. Because we need to, like in many other verticals, like the private and public sector working together and finding that balance as well.
I think EnergyNet is, of course, the perfect testament to this.
Exactly.
I think we're proving ourselves very well with EnergyNet, and I think we will be able to do so with the next and the next. I think there's been done an incredible job on EnergyNet from both my colleagues and from the team that has been working on it. And I look forward to seeing our next big institutional partner. I think that's I very much agree that that's a main point for mainstream adoption.
And of course, the user-friendly that we also touch upon, and convenient application for everyday use, personal data, profile payments, verified. Yes, all of these working together.
Yeah, education and awareness. I think education, educating people on what they need to understand, but also, understanding what you need to understand is sometimes enough, in my opinion. You don't have to know everything to use a DApp for your convenience or your safety.
I often use the example of every time you use your credit card, you don't know how electromagnetism works. You're using it.
Exactly.
Yeah, so perhaps like awareness and education in what can be done with the technology, but you don't have to be an expert in the technology per se.
Exactly. Yeah. Unfortunately, we didn't get to read all of these answers. Thank you so much for chipping in and giving us some good things to work with. I will definitely have a nice afternoon after this, looking into what we can work with further on this. And let's call it for today, or what?
Yes, let's round it up. Well, thank you very much for being here with us and assisting us in figuring out what you think of Concordium, and you are helping us shape the future of the organization. And I can't wait for the next one.
Me neither. Thank you so much.
Awesome.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.